still together in the house, but she knew if something happened, it was Larry. That's what she said. You may recall this couple, Julie and Mark Jensen. It was a case that we covered here on Court TV, actually twice, many years apart. He was accused and convicted twice of murdering his wife, Julie, with antifreeze. There was a letter that Julie wrote. Take a look at it. In that letter, if anything happens to me, he would be my first suspect, speaking about her husband, Mark. So again, someone who knew. Now, in this case, in Utah, Corey Richens, accused of murdering her husband, Eric. 3 days later, this is from the probable cause affidavit. 3 days later, on February 14th, 2022, the defendant prepared a sandwich for Eric Richens and placed it on the seat of his truck with a love note. Shortly after consuming the sandwich, Eric Richens broke out in hives and had difficulty breathing. Eric found his son's EpiPen and administered it to himself and slept. Eric Richens believed that he had been poisoned. Eric Richens told a friend that he thought his wife was trying to poison him. So I have a question tonight, because this is not the first time, and there are other examples that we've seen through the years here on Court TV. Why do they stay? Why do they stay? If you're with someone and you're like, hey, if something happens to me, they look at them, or I think they may be trying to kill me, why do they stay? What's the psychology of all that? Let's bring in an expert. Joining us tonight from Los Angeles, California, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert witness, columnist of Inside the Criminal Mind, and best-selling author, Dr. Carole Lieberman is with us. Dr. Lieberman, thank you so much. So, I mean, that's really my question tonight, because we've seen this, unfortunately, many times in these spousal murder cases. They have a sense that something's going on, yet sometimes they stay. Why is that? What is the dynamic there?
Yes, their gut is telling them, especially because they've known their spouse usually for a significant amount of time, and so they sense these things. Why do they stay? For each couple, it's a little bit different, but in general, it has to do with something called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive meaning thinking, dissonance meaning conflict. So on the one hand, the conscious part of their mind is aware of these kinds of things. You know, they pick up on cues, like the sandwich that, that got him sick, got Eric sick. But then they don't want to believe this. So they go into denial, and they push these conscious thoughts into their unconscious mind, and they pretend to themselves that everything's fine. Now, with Eric, there were also some particular reasons why he wanted to believe that it was fine. I mean, besides the fact that nobody wants to believe that their spouse is going to kill them. But he was really intent upon keeping the family together for his 3 boys. And his wife, his first wife, according to Corey, had an affair. And so he didn't want to go through another divorce. And he just wanted to, he was hoping that he was wrong.
So I guess deep down you want to believe that you're wrong, right? You don't want to believe that you would exchange vows and be married to someone who would be capable of taking your life. I mean, that's because it almost makes you question your own judgment, right? Of who someone is. So I guess you wouldn't want to believe it.
Right. And yet, in this case, of course, he had so many reasons why he shouldn't believe it, why, the logical part of his mind, the conscious part, really did have good reasons why he should suspect her. I mean, the fact that there were these other previous occasions when he got sick, the fact that she had been taking money from him, the fact that he knew already that she had changed his life insurance, and yes, he changed it back, but, he was already doing things with money and a trust for his kids and so on, taking action where that showed that he did believe on one level, his conscious level, he was realizing that these are clues that there's something going on. But again, the unconscious, was more, took control and told him, man, no, you're just, this is your mind playing tricks on you. She wouldn't do anything like that to you. She loves you. And of course, she was such a good game player. She was so able to convince him how much she loved him and all of that, that he believed that part.
Yet, right, he's allegedly verbalizing this to someone, like saying out loud, she's trying to poison me. In the other cases, a note written, a letter written saying he's the one. In other cases, telling someone, hey, if something happens to me, look at him. So from your perspective, at a trial, how much weight should a jury put into those statements if they become evidence, right? If it's in front of the jury that, hey, the victim here said, if something happens to me, look at this person. Or, hey, my spouse is trying to poison me. How much weight do you think the jury should put in those types of statements?
I think the jury is going to connect to those kinds of statements and see them as being real because, they know themselves. We all know when we have these gut feelings about something. And I mean, if he seemed like, if he was a man who had other flights of fancy, if he wasn't really serious and wasn't really responsible, which he was, in so many different ways, his business, his children, and so on, he was very responsible. So if somebody like that has these feelings, these senses, they will take it seriously. It's sort of something that just connects to something we all can relate to.
And in evaluating these statements, is it important who the person is that is saying, hey, they told me this, right? To me, because
yes,
if for the jury to believe it and trust it,
yes,
the source is important, right?
Right. I mean, if it's somebody who would benefit, like, for example, his sister, I mean, I guess maybe the jury could question, well, is she just saying that because he put his life insurance and his trust and all of that into her name? And is she just saying it, so that the wife gets convicted? That's certainly possible that they would wonder about it in any case. But I think from what we know so far about these various people, there are some who seem more trustworthy than others.
I'm going to ask you one more question. I don't know what the answer is. Have you ever come across someone who has said, hey, I think my spouse is trying to kill me, or if I end up dead, you should look at my spouse, and they don't die?
Well, I mean, we have people, paranoid schizophrenics, for example, or other kinds of paranoid people who might have these thoughts. And it isn't true, but that has to do with a mental illness, not really not that they were wrong or not about a gut feeling. That it would be somebody who is generally paranoid, typically, or for example, people who think that their spouse is cheating, like he thought that she was cheating and she thought that he was cheating. So, those kinds of things could be taken with a little more of a grain of salt. But something like this is more serious.
Absolutely. Dr. Carole Lieberman, great to have your insight tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.